Okay, welcome to episode 15 of Soul Purpose Conversation. Jan and I are here to talk about soul purpose ascension and actually integration. So I want to talk about what integration means in a moment, but we're here to really have a conversation around soul-led entrepreneurs. We have a soul purpose group, and this group is designed to really help entrepreneurs who are soul-led in the world to grow their business from a spiritual standpoint. And the reason that we came to this approach and the guidance and the service in the world is it's much needed. And it is a time, especially, AIs and technologies are evolving. The spirituality and consciousness needs to be emphasized and to be a core part of the innovation and evolution in this world. So we believe in the spiritual dimension and believe in the work of all soul-led entrepreneurs. And we're here to help them to shine their light and to let the light of them help others in the world see their light in them. So Jan is the one who comes up with the topic, and he has an exciting topic. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Jan?
Yes. Hi. So it's wonderful how this topic came because we're getting it. There's a workshop next week, and always the week before the workshop, you do some like pre-game posts to warm everyone up and get them into the right energy. And your response to someone to yesterday's warm-up post, you mentioned basic trust, which blew me away because on Friday on the Enia Club call, we just started the chapter on basic trust. And I've just been reading this every day because it's just such an important part. The book that I'm going to read from now is essentially about the spiritual dimension of the Enneagram, focusing on the holy ideas. And for those that don't know what that is, this book is just basically about how to start dismantling the unconscious personality or seeing it as a distorted expression or attempt to return to the holiest part of you, right? So the way that you behave in the world is a distorted expression of the truest part of you. And before they even get into the juicy bits, the writer Almas, he starts by saying, you cannot do this work without basic trust. And then he goes into this chapter about this concept of basic trust. So part of this that I'm going to read, it might talk about personality and stuff, but the reason why I want us to talk about this on the call today is because I think that this is important no matter what you're doing, right? So I'll just cherry pick some parts out of here. The first part is we will begin our exploration of the holy ideas by inquiring into a particular condition or orientation of the soul that is their basis. The relative presence or absence of this condition in our individual consciousness or soul has a significant effect on the orientation towards or away from being. When this state is present, the development of the soul moves towards being. When it is relatively absent, the soul develops more towards ego. Right? Let's see here. Basic trust is difficult to discuss because doing so makes it explicit, while it is fundamentally implicit. Those who have it never think about it, never question it, never know that there is such a thing. When they see someone who doesn't have it, they wonder why he is having such a difficult time, why he doesn't know that things will be fine. In those who have never lost basic trust, there is an innocence. Only when you have lost it and go through consciously developing it again do you understand what it takes, what it's like not to have it. And then the last bit is, so to understand basic trust in action, right? Because he talks very thoroughly about the sense of basic trust and that it's not a psychological trust, because psychological trust is heavily influenced by the environment, how I think and feel about it, right? And this level of basic trust that he's talking about, and it, we could even call it embodiment, but it's more than that. It's a deep sense of belonging, or whatever you want to call it. I see Yuki's like, he's ready to go. So I'm just going to read this last bit first.
Okay.
Do you mind? Okay. So what I think is interesting is that he explains this basic trust in such a way that he has to almost just make it very clear that basic trust is not inaction, right? And he says here, to understand basic trust in action, we need to distinguish it from the ego's tendency towards inertia and inactivity. To have basic trust does not imply that you don't act. It does not mean that if someone is pointing a gun at you, you don't do anything to defend yourself. It means that you trust your impulse to run. I love that. You trust your impulse to run. You trust your inherent intelligent functioning. Likewise, trusting that the universe will take care of you does not mean that you stay in bed all day. The universe will take care of you by making you get up and tend to your business. The universe unfolds in an optimal way, and part of that unfoldment happens through you and your actions. When you have a lot of basic trust, you are courageous and authentic. You take risks. You don't sit on your capacities. You engage in life wholeheartedly, doing what feels appropriate to you with the confidence that it will work out. Without much basic trust, you are paralyzed with fear of failure and fear of rejection. For instance, if you're looking for a mate, basic trust means taking the risk of talking with someone you're attracted to. You may be a little frightened, but the fear is not a big deal, and you act anyway. If she rejects you, so what? You feel resilient, after all. There are millions of people in the world. But without basic trust, rejection can feel like the end of the world. You feel hopeless. So basic trust implies real hope, which we will discuss when we get to the holy idea of holy hope.
The last piece that you mentioned, Jan, without basic trust, rejection feels like the end of the world. If we can generalize that a little bit more, because people, one of the things that I'm focusing on this time around in the universal laws in action is to really help all of us build a different kind of relationship with contrast, right? So what appears to be negative in this world, because just to give a context to everybody who is watching, listening to the, obviously, we have a school group called Soul Purpose Group, and it is a group to help people spiritually realized. So to live a life, this physical life, from the essence of who we are. And I found that there's a layers in that, right? Layers of understanding, then realizing who we are, which is more than the mind, mental construct, that the concept of who we see ourselves as in the body. But then we also want to integrate the essence of who we are in the dimension of personality. And I think that's what many people struggle, integrating that in the dimension of the mind and dimension of the body. And when I say integrating into the dimension of the body, means not only the physical body, but the earth body, right? What happens as an event in the consequence and the circumstance. How
The
can
experience.
we experience? How can we bring the essence view, how the soul view of this is going to be? And when we live a life from the lens of the soul, there's no negativity, because negativity is a concept in the mind. So when you are talking about the basic trust, and I think to bring our conversation down to the like a general public, we can use the term like a certainty, where people feel uncertain about their life when they don't know where they're going, or when something that appears to be negative happens, or when somebody rejects you and impact something that you wanted. You feel uncertain, and you start feeling not trustworthy. You don't start believing yourself. All those stuff is at the psychological level. So when you said that, the Alma said basic trust is not the same as the psychological trust, I love the language of pre-verbal. right? This knowing of basic trust is a pre-verbal knowing. So
Mm.
pre-verbal means that it's before you learn the language. So it's beyond the conceptual things that you intellectually understand. It's a palpable feeling and the knowing that you have at the core of your being that you are being supportive. And then even like, in the Greatest Secret book by Rhonda Byrne, there's a chapter that all is well. She's talking about the same thing using different language, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I even remember Neil Donald Walsh, by Conversation with God. He said that the because you mentioned about the impulse. He talks about the instinct, right? Many people, he said that many people think that the fundamental instinct of humans is fear, right? But he said that the real fundamental instinct as a spiritual being is actually love.
Mm.
And the example that he gave was that what do you do when the building that you're in is about to burn down with fire? You run, just like you said, right? You run because of the instinct, animal instinct, sense the threat to leave that place. But here's what he said next. What would you do if that building that's about to burn down because of the fire, but you know that the baby is sleeping in one of the rooms? You go into the fire to take the baby with you. That's the instinct of love, he said. So
Mm-hmm.
when you said whatever the passage that you're reading, and the impulse is to take action, impulse is to move into courageously, I heard that what Neil said, where all those things that you're talking about actually is referring to love instead of fear. So the basic trust, which is the underlying pre-verbal knowing that we have, what makes us feel supported, what makes us feel connected, what makes us feel that we're on the right track, what makes us understand that whatever the rejection or some contrast happening in our life, but it's okay, is to be one with that feeling sensation of love, because we are one. And there's no there's no option for love to fail, or there's no option for love to go wrong, because it doesn't exist in that scope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see things, right? There are different ways to look at this. um, but I think if we can bring that into a day-to-day activity for people, right? um, like solid entrepreneurs, people are expressing themselves because they have the gift to the world, and they running into um, what appears to be a lack because it's not conducive to the desire, right? They want to see more the impact, more the feedback from people, more people engaging. But let's say if you make a post, or if you conduct a webinar, or if you have a group like us, and if you don't see things engage as much as you want to, um, people start buying into the idea, right? People start buying into and begin believing that that is true. But the truth of what we want it to be is and can be created based on that basic trust in the imagination and the assumption, and how we can move the frequency and energy using consciousness. So it's interesting you mentioned that whatever that you said earlier, that it's easy for me if I'm on the other side. um, I think the best thing that I can do to help people is to demonstrate that it's easy, so they can feel that it's easy and come to the other side. Although instead of empathizing, oh, I know how difficult it might be for you, and then coming down to their place, then it will take longer for them to come to the other side. So that's how I feel like the whole play
Mm,
dynamic.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the two things. The one is, so when, for instance, somebody they join the program and they set up their first webinar, and and it doesn't go the way that they wanted to. Often we get messages or feedback, and they're devastated. Some people, and whether you're a soulpreneur or you don't even believe in spirituality and you're just an entrepreneur, it's interesting that there's like this terminology in psychology sort of landscape around the valley of despair, right? So you have this, what you feel amazing. I'm going to start a business. You feel so aligned with it, and you feel like you have something to share with the world. And then you start doing it, and it feels like the journey is like this before it goes like that. And most people give up at the bottom. It's quantifiable. It's called the valley of despair, right? But what we are trying to tell people is that it is going to, like, the contrast comes before the rise. And then the other thing is that also, like, from a felt sense, when you are on this entrepreneurial journey, you have to stay with that initial feeling that you had, despite what you see in so-called reality, right? And because it takes time for reality to catch up to the best I heard it was from what is his name? I'll remember it. But and he said that, there's three realms. I've never heard anyone explain it like this, but he said there's three realms. There is an idea, a thought, then you feel it, then it goes into the feeling realm, and then it takes the longest to go from through the realms of the idea, the thought, into the feeling, into reality. He says it's for it to get to reality, there is a delay. It takes time, right? And I love that. It's something to just be, like, really aware of, is that on the entrepreneurial journey, especially if this is not like this is your first rodeo, right? It's you're stepping into the landscape brand new. You should anticipate that it's not going to just, like, you should assume that it's going to go well, and you should hold that assumption. But whatever happens in front of you, like, you have to sort of not assume, but you have to be unattached. But you have to be I'm trying to find the right language here. You have to be not aware. You have to understand that this mechanism of contrast. You have to understand it. It's part of the process.
I mean, that's law of rhythm, and the idea that the contrast, the meaning that we make towards contrast, understanding the process of creation, right? There's gonna be some disturbance in the process of birth, just like, every child that is born the mother goes through some pain and some hormonal difficulty, right? One of the things that I started to think when you are talking about is this sort of connection between the basic trust, which is a pre-verbal knowing that life is great, life is love, and how that tied into the assumption of life for people. Something that I mentioned in the last month workshop that I did, that I was surprised me, coming out of my mouth, which I want to repeat is, so for instance, we are helping soul-led entrepreneurs. And what that really means is that, and then we also use a lot of the language around the artist, right? Because we are all artists, and life is a playground that we came here to paint our arts. And we all have a gifted ability, whatever the unique ability that we came here to express. And the life story that we have lived is actually the product of us, because otherwise, good and bad, pain and pleasure, darkness and light, the accumulation and the sum of that becomes our expression to help others. I have never had any doubt in that. I always believe in that way of thinking. I have gone through this so that I can utilize this experience to help others. Like, I cannot tell you enough how many of the people who becomes chiropractor or physical therapists are those who have gone through some physical challenges, and they wanted to help others because they have gone through it, right? It's a natural tendency for life to guide us to do so. But the point is that then, if we understand the journey of the soul, the life has led us and guided us to experience what we are supposed to and designed to and meant to go through, so we can wake up into our true calling, right? So purpose is mission, and also it's a calling. So each one of us has a calling that we can tap into. And the definition, Jan, of soul-led entrepreneurs are those who are producing the service based on their calling, not based on the external demand, not based on what trendy is today, but based on what they are called to do to be able to express their song and message and voice. And if we understand this basic trust thing that we're talking about, Jan, I feel that whatever anybody who is watching, listening to, whatever that you feel called to do, if you came here to do that, you're supposed to be succeeding, whatever that success that you have in your mind, right? So let's say if you're building a business, or let's say if you're doing a volunteer work or any project that you have, the assumption that we want to have to live this basic trust, pre-verbal knowing, is that the map of the greatest potentiality of the creation of that is already completed. Does that make sense? Because most people don't operate that way. Can we assume that the greatest vision that you came here to create is already done? Then something not going the way that you want to, or you seeing some sort of lag, shouldn't impact them, because that's just a process of polishing and cultivating, right? And I already see the end result being completed, because that's what I came here to do. So I think the mental exercise that I like to really leave everybody is, if you are tapping into the calling, success of that is inevitable. And then, can we feel that by accessing the basic trust, the pre-verbal knowing, not thinking about it? And can we practice integrating that basic trust into our day-to-day assumption, right? The energetic assumption, oh, this is what's going to happen because it's already done, right? I came here to do. Success of that is inevitable. And I think it's important to be practicing the energetic subconscious vibration to operate that way. So how the mind, the personality is playing in this world aligns with that basic trust and the knowing. That's how I see it.
So I'll try. So the one thing I want to say on the definition of the soulpreneur, which I love, that comes from you, is what did you say? The redefinition of success, which is seeking wholeness. And I think that that's something important to mention in the soulpreneur definition. It's people that are like entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs or whatever, have always felt maybe that there is a duality between business and and spirituality, and everything in life is a spiritual endeavor. Everything, even the business, right? So figuring that out is also what the soulpreneur sort of landscape looks like, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. And then the other thing is, what I wanted to, when you were talking, was what was coming to me was the Madonna interview, right? And where she says, I'm not the manager of, I'm not the light that I share is not mine, I'm just the manager of it. Which I think is also, ties into this basic trust idea. Because I think that's one of the, I guess that's what I should post about, right? Is that's one of the first booby traps, is you have a calling, and then you start to get into facilitation, and then you forget why you're doing it. You forget the assumption that you began it with, and you start to get caught up in tactics and the lack that you see, perhaps, or or you get attached to the business, or if you're starting out to help people, and then you start to worry about money, then you're not doing it to help people anymore. And these are all things that happen to people along the way. It is simple, but as we were saying, we should have recorded it, but as we were saying, it's that first step doesn't feel simple. It feels pretty tough.
Yeah. I think one of the keys though here, Jan, is to understand and execute that wholeness is not a destination that we're moving towards. Like every action, every moment that we're living, we are given the opportunity to experience wholeness. So, I mean, did you say booby trap?
Booby trap, yeah.
All the booby traps are the mind, right? The mind wants to think about, the mind wants to go towards, the mind wants to make everything as a distance away from you, right? So let's say wholeness inside, growth and expansion outside, right? And then the mind starts thinking, oh, I gotta get to that wholeness over there, right? The mind wants to think that everything is over there, not right here. So,
but you,
yeah, go ahead.
But you're also using the mind to do the building, right?
Exactly.
So it's the tool, but it's also the booby trap. It's and I think the differentiation there, or refining your ability in the differentiation of knowing when you're using the mind in the wrong way, is also something that needs to be cultivated.
Yeah.
Because it starts to overlap, right? You start building a business, but in the using of the mind of building the business, you're also building the booby trap if the energetics is not right.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It is a subtle distinction, and it comes with awareness, right? To become aware of the internal, and I think that the marker that we want to go after is to really inquire inside and to feel how expansive you feel, right? And the expansion needs to be there, but that doesn't mean that when something is uncomfortable because of the belief that you're in, you're gonna be working on that, right? We do want to feel a little uncomfortable because the mind wants to, stay in the same identity. Yeah, out of that comfort zone. The mind wants to distance something away from here and now, and the mind wants to stay comfortable. So, circling back to the idea of basic trust, I think for anybody who, really wants to feel that fundamental certainty, how to begin that process, you want to be in this conversation, right? Because the world doesn't operate from that place. There's no soul-led life too much out there, and there are places that you can learn that. But I think to be in the environment that facilitates that, so that becomes your new default state. Every single pattern that we experience in life, including not feeling that fundamental trust, Jan, is simply a habit of the mind. And here I am. I'm making it sound very easy, but I think it's that easy. It's just a mental habit that we accumulate it along the way, and we can change it.
Yeah, but that, yes, I agree. But that said, you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because for me, I had to experience a very fair amount of contrast. I had to base my personality had to implode, basically. Like, this is the saying that I tell everyone, especially with the Enya work, is it's the nature of the personality to self-destruct, and
Mm-hmm.
the unconscious personality, the one I was born with, and I had, and if you told me, if I heard this conversation 4 or 5 years ago, I would not be able to understand, I don't think, what you were talking about. I might be able to follow it intellectually, but
Mm.
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm.
And it's only on this side of the conversation that I resonate and I truly understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that, so if somebody is hearing this and wondering, like, what are these kooky guys talking about, then it's like, well, the I can tell you how I eventually got there after all of the pain. Once I landed back in South Africa after a whole catastrophe in my life, and the first thought to me was like, okay, well, let's just try again, build another business, get another relationship, to tick all the boxes. And luckily, something came through to me that said, just, you don't, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do it like that. And I decided to sit, and I found some stillness. And when I say I didn't sit for a couple of days, I sat for months,
Mm.
and meditated and did breath work. And I did try a whole bunch of modalities that I have personal opinions about. But the ones that really worked was the trying to find undistracted stillness as much as you can, which is hard for somebody that's in pain, because you want to reach for things. You want to reach for pizza, you want to reach for Netflix, you want to reach for, and then eventually, as we were talking about, you start playing this game of reaching for better things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, I'm not going to self-soothe with the couch and Netflix and pizza. I'm going to now go to the gym, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to do all of these things. And even in that, I realized that I was reaching for something spiritual. I was trying to fill the HOLE hole
Mm-hmm.
within me, right? But I was trying to find WHOL wholeness. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to, and somewhere in all of that, the switch got flipped, and and now I'm on the other side of that, where in the meditation and in the stillness, I found the basic trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in all honesty, a couple of times since that, I've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what they say in this book, which I found so profound, is once you've lost it and regained it, you know how precious it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think there are people who are in different stages, and all we can do is to express what we're doing, and
Yeah.
the practices that we're doing. So anybody and everybody who is ready to hear can find us. That's why we're doing what we're doing like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
100%.
So this is something that we talk about every single day in the Soul Purpose group, everybody. We support both soul-led entrepreneurs and enthusiasts. Means that whether you have a business or not, if you're desiring to have a soul-led lifestyle and to truly begin living the embodiment of what we're talking about, not just intellectually understanding it. I'll share the link to click to join the school group below or above. And we are in a week away, almost a week away, exactly a week away from the next event, Universal Laws in Action. I'm going to be talking about three important universal laws that I feel everybody needs to hear right now to impact their life. And we're going to go really, really deep. And the actual objective of this workshop is for actually everybody to have a transformation in that experience. So it's not just going to be about listening to what I say, but for you to have an opportunity to dive deeper into how you're showing up, what's the energetics inside of you. So I'll share the post so you can click to join. And that was episode 15. So we don't have that 15, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So we don't.
just one thing that I wanted to add was we have a workshop every single month, and we have an entire monthly process really around each workshop that starts in the first week of the month. The workshop is normally in the third week. Sometimes if there's 5 weeks, it's the fourth week. But it's don't just come to the workshop and leave.
Right.
Like it's for every single member, even the people in the courses. The people in the courses understand this. That's the funny thing, is the paid members understand this. It blows my mind that well, it's just interesting to me that the people that take this stuff the most seriously are the paid members, but they understand that this monthly flow is that, week 1, week 2, week 3, it's all part of the process. Then it's workshop. Then it's the next month, and we're constantly rolling this process over and over and over to help people to get where they're going. It's not just one random workshop. It's the community has got a very specific purpose.
Yeah, the intention. The entire monthly flow is a process through which people can go deeper into the transformation, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Amazing. So we'll come back not next week, but the following week. But I look for everybody to having in the school group, and I'll drop the link below. So click and join. Thank you, Jan, everybody. Until next time.